Hello students. Today also we will discuss about chapter number 1, that is physical world. Today we will discuss in detail the four fundamental forces of nature. In my last video I have already given you an intro of these forces. They are electromagnetism, that is electromagnetic force, weak interaction, that is weak nuclear force, strong interaction, that is a strong nuclear force, and the last one is gravitation, that is gravitational force. First, we will discuss about gravitational force. Actually, it is the force of mutual attraction between the two bodies by virtue of their masses. Here also, if you can see that we have considered two bodies. M1 is the mass of this body, M2 is the mass of this body. They both attract each other with a force, and that force is known as what? Gravitational force, and this force is mutual. It means they both exert force of attraction on the other body. So here F1 denotes what? Force exerted by this body on this body. And what is F2? Force exerted on this body due to this body. So a mutual attractive force exists between two bodies, and this mutual attractive force is known as what? Gravitational force. Now to find out that how much is the force exists between these two bodies whose masses are M1 and M2, and they are separated by r distance. R is the distance between the centers of these two bodies. Then how much is the force experienced by these bodies because of each other? So this is given by one law, and that law is known as what? Newton's law of gravitation, as it is given by Newton. And the statement of this law is like this, that the force of attraction between these two bodies is directly proportional to the product of their masses, that is M1 and M2, and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. And what is the distance between them? R. Okay, I'll show you like this. Okay, the first part of the statement says that F is the force between these two bodies. F is directly proportional to M1, M2, product of the masses of the two bodies, and F is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Distance between them is r. Square of the distance between them means r square. And second part says that F is inversely proportional to r square. It means we are supposed to write it like this, 1 upon r square. So that's why the complete statement is this: F is directly proportional to M1, M2. F is inversely proportional to r square. If I will give it equation number 1, equation number 2, and when we will combine these two equations, we can write it like this: F is directly proportional to M1, M2 upon r square. And when we remove this proportionality sign, we'll have a constant, and that constant will be g. So finally what we can write, F is equals to g M1 M2 upon r square. G is a constant which is known as what? Universal gravitational constant. So this is what? This is Newton's law of gravitation, which gives us the magnitude of force, magnitude of gravitational force between two bodies whose masses we know and the distance between them we know. So we can easily calculate by this, because g is constant. It has a constant value. It is a universal constant. So I think this thing is clear. So F is equals to g M1 M2 upon r square. Now here we can I can make you understand two more things, that what is the meaning of directly proportional and inversely proportional. Actually, in first part it is written F is directly proportional to M1, M2. What does it mean? It means that directly proportional means what? If M1, M2 will increase, F will also increase. If M1, M2 will decrease, F will also decrease, because they are directly proportional. If the product will increase, F will also increase. If the product will decrease, or any of them will decrease, F will also decrease. So that is the meaning of directly proportional. But if we talk about the second part, that F is inversely proportional to r square, what does it mean? It means that if you increase r, F will decrease. If you increase r means what? If you increase the distance between these two bodies, the force between them will decrease. And if you decrease the distance between these two bodies, that if you it means that if you decrease r, F will increase, because F is inversely proportional to r square. Inverse means they will go in opposite way. If you will increase one, the other one will decrease. If you decrease one, the other will increase. So this is how they move. So I think this thing is clear, that what is the meaning of directly proportional and what is the meaning of inversely proportional. So this is what, this is Newton's law of gravitation, and which is what, F is equals to G m1 m2 upon r square. Now this gravitational force, it has many properties. Few we can discuss quickly. First of all, it is a universal attractive force. It is attractive force, it can never be repulsive, and it is a universal attractive force. Okay, it is followed by each and everything which is present in this universe. A body of any mass, all obeys what, or all experience what? Gravitational force. So it is a universal attractive force. It is directly proportional to the product of the masses of the two bodies, which we have already discussed. It obeys inverse square law. That this is the next property. Obeys inverse square law means, we have already studied the second part of the Newton's law of gravitation, that F is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the two bodies. So this is only known as what? Inverse square law. So we can say that gravitational force obeys inverse square law. Similarly, in class 12 you will study Coulomb's law. So Coulomb's law, it also obeys Coulomb's force, electrostatic force between two charged particles. It also obeys what? Inverse square law. So what is inverse square law? That when a force is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the two bodies is only known as what? Inverse square law. Next is, it is a long range force. It's not like that the distance between them should be very small, it should be very short, that then only it will act. No, it's not like that. It is a long range force. The distance between them can be huge, and it does not need any medium for its operation. It's not like that it requires air, that if air will be there between two bodies, then only gravitational force will be there between two bodies. It's not like that. Even in vacuum, gravitational force is there between the two bodies. Okay, next is, gravitational force between two bodies does not depend upon the presence of the other bodies. Right now, if I will say that the force between these two bodies, suppose it is 40 Newton, suppose, and if I will place the third body over here whose mass is m3, but then also the force between these two bodies will be 40 Newton only. It will not change. So that's why this property says that the gravitational force between two bodies, it does not depend upon the presence of the other body. Next property is, it is the weakest force known in nature. It is the weakest force. Like even there is force between, like if we are sitting with our friends, there is a gravitational force between us and our friends, but then also we cannot feel it because it is so much weak. It is the weakest force in nature that even we can't feel it. So you have to remember this property of gravitational force, that what is the weakest force in nature? The weakest force in nature is gravitational force. Next property is, it is a central force. It is a central force means what? If I'll ask you that, okay fine, between these two bodies, F is acting between these two bodies. But if I'm asking you that where this force is acting, so now if you will draw a line, like suppose one second, like suppose this is the center of this body, wait, this is the center of this body and this is the center of this body, and if I'll ask you that fine, that there is a gravitational force between these two bodies, but where this force is acting, so you will say that the line joining the center of these two bodies, that this force where it acts, I'm not able to draw it properly from the center, but you will say that it acts along the line joining the center of the two bodies, and this is known as what? Then we call this force as a central force. So what is the property of gravitational force? That it is a central force. What does it mean? That it acts along the line joining the center of these two bodies. I have extended it. One second. It will be like this. Let me draw it once again. This is the center of this body and this is the center of this body. So if you will make a line which joins the center of these two bodies, then this force will act along the line joining the center of this body, and this is known as what? Central force. Okay, it is a conservative force. Now what is the meaning of conservative force? It is if the work done in moving a body against the gravitational force is path independent. Okay, like these two bodies, they are having attractive force between each other. Okay, so but if I just want to move this body, one second, but if I just want to move this body against this gravitational force, I have to do some work against that force of attraction. So whatever work is done by me, it is path independent. It does not depend upon the path, that in which path I am moving this body. It is path independent. It simply depends upon the initial and the final position. From which point to which point I am moving this body, it depends on those 2 points. It does not depend upon that how I am moving this body. Like I am moving this body in this way or in this way. It simply depends that what is the initial position and what is the final position. So we can say that the work done is path independent, and this property is known as what? Or we can say that it is which type of force? It is a conservative force. So that's why we use the word conservative force. And the last one is the gravitational force between two bodies is caused by an exchange of a particle called graviton. Okay, now graviton is not yet discovered, and it is believed that if these two bodies are interacting with each other, or there is a force of attraction between these two bodies, it is only because of the exchange of a particle which is known as what? Graviton. So these are the properties of the gravitational force. Example also we can discuss that what are the example or where gravitational force exists in nature. So we know this thing that if we throw a body in upward direction, it will fall. So why it will fall towards the surface of the earth? Because of the gravitational force of attraction exerted on them by the earth. Okay, gravitational force, it governs the motion of the it governs the motion of the moon, it governs the motion of the satellites around the earth, and it is also responsible for the motion of the planets around the sun. So these are the examples which are there and where gravitational force exists. So this was all about gravitational force, and I hope this is clear. Next is electromagnetic force. In electromagnetic force, actually we talk about two forces. One is electrostatic force and the second one is magnetic force. And when we talk about them together, we have given it one word, that is electromagnetic force. Actually, we know this thing that there are two types of charges, negative charge and positive charge. Okay, so when charges are at rest, when they are not moving, suppose these two negative charges, they are not in motion, they are static, they are at rest. So they will experience a force of repulsion because of each other. So the force acting between the charges which are at rest is known as what? Electrostatic force. And we know this thing that like charges, they repel each other, unlike charges, they attract each other. So they both are negative, there will be force of repulsion. So that's why what these arrows indicate, that they move, this charge move in this direction, this charge move in this direction, because they experience what? They experience force of repulsion because of each other. Similarly, they both are positive charges, they both are also like charges, so they will also experience what? Force of repulsion. So again, this charge will move in this direction, this charge will move in this direction. So in both the cases, there will be force of repulsion between the two charges because they are like charges. But if we talk about the third case, this is negative, this is positive. We know this thing, when charges are unlike, they will experience force of attraction. So that's why this charge will be attracted towards this charge and this charge will be attracted towards this charge. So what you have to understand, that when charges are at rest, they experience force because of each other, and that force is known as what? Electrostatic force. And Coulomb has given one law to find out that how much force is acting between these charges. Like in previous slide, what we have discussed about gravitational force, that Newton has given Newton's law of gravitation to find out the force between two bodies. Similarly, Coulomb has given one law to find out the force between two charged particles, that how much force is there between these two charges. So that force is given by Coulomb's law. We call it what? Coulomb's law. And according to Coulomb's law, according to Coulomb's law, the statement of Coulomb's law says that suppose if the one second. Suppose these are the two charge bodies. Charge on this body is suppose Q1 and charge on this body is suppose Q2. And these two charge bodies, they are separated by how much distance? R. Now Coulomb's law states that the force of repulsion, because right now in this case they both are negative, so we will say that force of repulsion. If I will talk about this case, I will say force of attraction. So if I'm talking about this case, what I will say, the force of repulsion between these two charges, that is F, is directly proportional to the product of their magnitude of the charges, because the magnitude of this charge is Q1 and the magnitude of this charge is Q2, and the product will be Q1 into Q2. So F is directly proportional to the product of the magnitude of their charges. And the second part of Coulomb's law says that F is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. So we can say that, I think now things are clear, that Coulomb's law also obeys what? Inverse square law. So this thing is common between gravitational force and electrostatic force, that they both obey inverse square law. So this is the first part and this is the second part. And when you will combine these two parts, you can write F is directly proportional to Q1 Q2 upon R square. So this is what Coulomb's law, which gives you the force between the two charges. And when you will remove this proportionality sign, you will have a constant F is equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 upon R square. So this is what the electrostatic force of attraction or repulsion between the two charges, and which is given by Coulomb. So according to Coulomb's law, we have written this. So we can say that we can compare gravitational force and electrostatic force. In gravitational force, we have written M1 M2. Here we have written Q1 Q2. In gravitational force, we have written R square, and here also we have written what? R square. In gravitational force, constant was G, and here the constant is how much? 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. Epsilon naught is known as what? Absolute permittivity, which is the property of the medium. Actually, in gravitational force, I told you that the gravitational force between two bodies, it does not depend upon the medium, but things are different over here when it comes to electrostatic force between two charges. The electrostatic force between two charges depends upon the medium between the two charges, and the property of that medium is what? Epsilon naught. So right now we will not discuss Coulomb's law in detail, because this chapter is in class 12th. A complete unit is there on electrostatic. So for you people, only this much, that F is equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 upon R square. So this was about what? Electrostatic force when charges are at rest. But if charges are moving, if the charge body is moving, then in that case what will happen? Actually, when charge is at rest, it produces what? Electric field. And because of electric field, it exerts some force on the other charge body. But if this charge will start moving, what is written here? I am moving, so I can make an electric field and magnetic field. So one thing you have to remember, that a static charge, it produces electric field. A moving charge produces electric field as well as magnetic field. And if magnetic field is produced by a moving charge, this magnetic field can exert a force on another moving charge. Okay, so we can say that a moving charge, it produces what? It has what? Magnetic force as well. So this force, it depends on the magnitude and direction of the velocity of the electric charge. So we can say that electrostatic and magnetic force are inseparable, and together they are known as what? Electromagnetic force. So I think this thing is clear, that if charges are at rest, we will talk about only electrostatic force. But if the same charges, if they start moving, they will have their magnetic field, and then we will talk about magnetic force as well. So in that case, electrostatic force and magnetic force will in combination, it will be called as what? Electromagnetic force. So I think this thing is clear. Okay, so here also we can discuss about the few properties of electromagnetic force. In gravitational force, I told you that gravitational force is an attractive force. But if we talk about electromagnetic force, it can be attractive, it can be repulsive. Why? It totally depends upon the nature of the charges. If the two charges are like charges, If they both are same, they will have force of repulsion between them. And if they both are unlike, one is positive and the another one is negative, they will have what? Force of attraction. So we can say that electromagnetic force, it can be attractive or it can be repulsive. Second property, I've already told you that it obeys inverse square law. F is inversely proportional to R square. So I think this thing is clear. I don't have to discuss it in much detail now. Third property is it is a long range force and it does not require any medium for its operation. Okay, it's not like that ki it requires a particular medium. It's the force between the two charges, it changes as the medium changes, but it is not like that it requires a medium. Even in vacuum also, the Coulomb, the electromagnetic force can exist between the two charged bodies. It is a central force. It also acts along the line joining the center of the two charges. It is a conservative force. So central force and conservative force I've already discussed with you in my previous slide. Now it is 10 to the power 36 times stronger than gravitational force. For gravitational force, I have told you that it is the weakest force in nature. But if we talk about electrostatic force or if we talk about electromagnetic force, it is how much times stronger than gravitational force? 10 to the power 36 times stronger than the gravitational force. Okay, and it is caused by the exchange of photons between two charged particles. It says that if two charged particles are interacting with each other, if they are exerting force on each other, it is only due to the exchange of photons between them. Okay, so simply you have to remember that photon is exchanged between the two charged particles, and because of that only they are able to interact with each other. Okay, so that's it. So this was all about electromagnetic force, and I think this is clear. Okay, one second. Next we have strong nuclear force, which is the strongest force in nature. Gravitational force is the weakest force in nature, and the strongest force in nature is the nuclear force, strong nuclear force. Okay, and it is 10 to the power 38 times stronger than gravitational force. Okay, 10 to the power 38 times. Fine. Now if we talk about these two diagrams, first of all, what is nuclear force? Actually, the strong attractive force which binds together the protons and neutrons in a nucleus is called what? Strong nuclear force. We know this thing. We know the structure of atom. In atom, we have what? Electrons we have, which revolves around the nucleus. And in nucleus, we have what? Protons and neutrons. And then in turn, many elementary particles are there, which we will not discuss them in in this chapter, because this is not there that we should discuss them in details. But you should know that apart from proton and neutron, many elementary particles are also there inside the nucleus. But if I talk about proton and neutron only, so there exists a strong attractive force between proton neutron or proton proton or neutron neutron inside the nucleus, and that strong attractive force is nothing but a strong nuclear force. Actually, initially, if we talk about if we talk about electrostatic force, in my previous slide I told you that in electrostatic force we say that like charges, they repel each other. So if we think that between these two protons, if electrostatic force is there, then because of the electrostatic force they would have repelled each other because of the electrostatic force, but they are not repelling each other. Okay, and if we say that there might be a gravitational force of attraction between two protons, but gravitational force is much weaker, it cannot overcome this electrostatic repulsion. So after thinking about all this, then they come to a third thing, that might be a new force is acting between the nucleons which exists inside the nucleus. Actually, protons and neutrons collectively, they are known as what? Nucleons. So a new attractive force must be acting between the nucleons, and that force is known as what? Strong nuclear force, and which is the strongest of all the fundamental force, and it is 100 times stronger than the electromagnetic force. Okay, so I think this thing is clear, that what is a strong nuclear force? The strong attractive force which holds the nucleons together in a nucleus is known as what? Strong nuclear force. Okay, so we can say that nuclear force, it is responsible for the stability of nuclear, that the nucleus is stable only because of the strong nuclear force which exists between the nucleons. If nuclear force is not there between the nucleons, what will happen? there will be no nucleus, and if there will be no nucleus, there will be no atoms, and ultimately there will be no existence of any matter in this universe. So we can say that nuclear force is responsible for the stability of nuclei, hence of the atoms, and ultimately all matter that exists in the universe. So it is very, very important. Okay, so I think this is clear. Few properties of this force we can also discuss, that it is the strongest interaction known in nature, and it is 10 to the power 38 times stronger than the gravitational force. Okay, and next property is it is a short range force. It operates only over the size of the nucleus. And what is the size of the nucleus? 10 to the power minus 15 meter only. So it is a very short range force. It is an attractive force. It is a non-central and non-conservative force. In electromagnetic force and in gravitational force, what we have discussed, that they are central force, they are conservative force. But if we talk about strong nuclear force, things are not same. It is a non-central and non-conservative force. It is charge independent. Charge independent means what? That the force between proton, neutron, neutron, they are almost equally strong. So we can say that they are this force is what? Charge independent, and it is caused by the exchange of particles called pi mesons. So if they're interacting with each other, these nucleons, so they are interacting because of the exchange of particles called pi mesons. So this was all about strong nuclear force, and I think things are clear. Next we have what? Weak nuclear force. That was strong nuclear force, and this is what? Weak nuclear force. Both are when we talk about these two forces, we always talk about nuclear. So that's why the word nuclear is common in both of them. But one is strong and one is comparably, if we talk about their strength, if we compare their strength, so this force, this weak nuclear force, is weak as compared to the strong nuclear force. So what is weak nuclear force? So what is written over here, that it is stronger than gravitational force, but it acts over a very short range distance or short distance range. It is the force that appears only between the elementary particles involved in a nuclear process, such as the beta decay of a nucleus. Actually, a nuclear process is there which is known as what? Beta decay. Now what is beta decay? Actually, beta decay, the nucleus, we know that what is nucleus? Nucleus emits an electron and an uncharged particle called neutrino. Like if we talk about nucleus, so when beta decay takes place, when this decay takes place, what is happening? The nucleus, it emits what? An electron, and along with electron, one more particle is there which is known as what? Neutrino. Neutrino is nothing, it is an elementary particle only with 0 rest mass and 0 charge. Okay, now I think this is clear that if we talk about like if electron is ejected out from a nucleus, then what will left behind? A proton. Now along with this electron, one more particle is there, that is known as what? Neutrino. Okay, neutrino is there. Now this electron and neutrino, they interact with each other through weak nuclear force. Okay, so the force between this electron and the neutrino is which force? It is the weak nuclear force, and this weak nuclear force is much stronger than the gravitational force, but it is much weaker than the strong nuclear force which exists between the nucleons inside the nucleus. Okay, so I think this thing is clear, that what is weak nuclear force. And here also we can discuss about the few properties of weak nuclear force. We can say that any process which involves, neutrino and antineutrino. Now neutrino and antineutrino, they are nothing but elementary particles only, which comes out whenever this type of decay takes place in nucleus. Okay, because these particles can only experience weak interaction and not the strong nuclear interaction. So whichever process which involves neutrino and antineutrino, we will talk about which force? We will talk about weak nuclear force. Now this weak nuclear force is 10 to the power 25 times stronger than gravitational force. If we compare this force with gravitational force, it is how much times stronger? It is 10 to the power 25 times stronger than the gravitational force. It is a short range force. It operates within the range of nuclear size. And what is the nuclear size? We know 10 to the power minus 15 meter. And the particles, the messenger particles are bosons. bosons. Okay, so we don't have to discuss all these things in details, but if I'm using the word pi, mesons, bosons, leptons, all these things are what? Elementary particles. These are the elementary particles which are grouped as what? Baryons, mesons, leptons. And for this particular chapter we don't have to discuss them in much detail. Okay, so here also we can say that the if elementary particles, if they are having weak nuclear force between them, so they are having weak nuclear force between them because of the exchange of particles, and the exchange of particles are, in this case, are vector bosons. So I think this thing is clear, that what is weak nuclear force and what is beta decay, and that's it. And this is only known as what? Radioactivity. If nucleus is not stable, it decay to becomes more and more stable, and during this decay many particles are coming out from the nucleus, from the neutron, and these elementary particles then they interact with each other through weak nuclear force. So I think this is clear. Now next is what? Next is the summary of these fundamental force. So I think this is clear. Gravitational force, weak nuclear force, electromagnetic force, and strong nuclear force. If we talk about the strength, so their strength is increasing in this way. So the weakest force is what? Gravitational force, and the strongest force is what? Strong nuclear force. If we talk about the range, gravitational force and electromagnetic force, I've already told you that they are long range force. That's why infinity is written over here. And these forces, these nuclear forces, that is weak nuclear force and the strong nuclear force, they are short range forces. That's why short range is written over here. Now messenger particle, exchange particle, that which particle is exchanged between them. Actually it says that each fundamental force between two elementary particles arises from the exchange of its characteristic particle, and that is known as what? Messenger particle. So if we talk about gravitation, that which particle is exchanged between the two bodies who's having masses, so it is what? Graviton, which is not yet observed. Then if we talk about weak nuclear forces, I've already told you that vector bosons, and they are denoted by like this: W plus, W minus, Z0. So they are known as what? Vector bosons. These are elementary particles only. Then if we talk about electromagnetic force, I've already told you that photons are exchanged, and it is represented by this symbol. Then a strong nuclear force, gluon. Okay, it is caused by the exchange of massless particles called gluons. Actually, strong nuclear force is not a true fundamental force. Actually, if we talk about nucleons means what? Protons and neutrons. They are built of subunits. They are themselves built of subunits, and they are known as what? Quarks. And the quark force which binds the nucleus together is known as what? Fundamental force. And this quark force, between this quark force, there is exchange of a particle which is known as what? Gluon. I think this thing is clear. Now the particles which experience these forces, if we talk about gravitation, we will say that all particles with mass, any particle which is having a mass, it will experience what? Gravitational force. Then weak nuclear force, we know this thing, we will talk about elementary particles, so they are quarks and leptons. If we talk about electromagnetic force, we'll talk about anything which is charged, which is electrically charged. And if we talk about strong nuclear force, again we'll talk about quarks and gluons. So I think this summary is clear.